There are three main ways that I think people get into welding. If you are already a welder, you probably went down one of these three paths. If you have not started welding yet, if you're brand new to welding, welcome to this video, and maybe you can figure out which avenue you'd like to take to get into it. My name is Andy Graham. I am an adjunct professor at the local Austin Community College, and I'd just like to share some information with you on the wonderful world of welding. The first pathway that I think of out of the three main ways to get into welding is just maybe the novice or hobbyist welder at home. It is a fairly low bar of entry to get into when you think of different aspects, such as just even the investment, the monetary investment to get into welding. Nowadays, you can get a fairly decent machine for pretty low cost, and the primary tools you need, such as a grinder, the personal protection equipment, such as gloves and safety glasses, and just full cotton shirts, just anything that's not going to catch on fire. A lot of as far as the clothing goes, you probably have some of that already, but the actual tools and a machine and the welding hood, I'm probably shooting high here when I say, it's going to be under $500 just to get started. Especially if you go the Harbor Freight route. I know they have a bit of a reputation for having some cheap equipment, but in all honesty, a lot of their equipment's actually not too bad. I have some of it here. I'm a fan of Harbor Freight, so I really can't say anything bad about them. You'd be surprised the kind of value you can get from the equipment and tools from Harbor Freight. I'm not sponsored by Harbor Freight, but I don't mind going on down to my local Harbor Freight on occasion and just seeing what they got and adding more stuff to the very minimal space I have in here. So if you want to just dip your toes even into welding, basics you're going to need is a welding hood, a pair of gloves, some safety glasses, a grinder of some sort, a 4-inch grinder that you can attach different discs to, whether that be a grinding disc, a cutting disc, a wire wheel. Some of those are going to be your primary discs that you'll want for that, and the welding machine itself. Depending on the route you want to go, if you want to start with stick welding, they have some fairly well-priced stick welders, probably in the $100 range. In fact, you can even get a flux core welder for around the same thing, around between $100 to $150. And when you start adding that up, $150 for a machine, maybe $50 to $100 for a half-decent hood, welding hood, safety glasses, a few bucks. Even grinders, I think at Harbor Freight, they sell some grinders for like $15. I haven't used one of those before. I'm not against it. I kind of want to get one just to see. I want to test its mileage out, see how that goes. And what else? You get your gloves for another few bucks, and 500 I think is probably shooting pretty high. You probably be able to get going at around 300 to 400 even. And still, I'm shooting high there, but I think you can get away with 300 pretty easily just to get something plugged into your wall and get some eye protection and start going on it. So the price of admission for a hobbyist welder, if you just want to give it a try at home and start getting into it, that's pretty much the basics you'd look for. Maybe on down the line, you'd want to get something like a oxyacetylene setup. It's a little bit of an investment there as well, but it's not necessary, but it's probably a good next step to go if you were going to do that. And so a lot of this equipment you can get at, say, Harbor Freight, maybe some decent welders at Tractor Supply. I got a Hobart Handler 140. That was my first machine when I started welding, was that Hobart Handler 140. It does flux core, it does MIG, and that was a very good machine. It is on the pricier side. I want to say it was $300 or $400 maybe at that time. So that is a little bit of a pricier machine, but it does get you at least doing MIG and flux core in the garage on 120 volt outlet. All of the machines I have here in my house are 120 volts. Some of them are capable of going into a 220 volt, but I don't have a 220 volt outlet in my garage. And this is my primary place, my primary shop that I weld in here at home. I live in suburban America. I don't even have a big shed or anything in the backyard. It's a very, very small piece of land I got here, just in your typical suburban neighborhood in a larger city. So I'm kind of restricted to one half of a 2-car garage. The other half I've got workout equipment in, and on this half I've got my welding equipment and shop equipment in here. So it is possible to get a decent little setup with minimal investment. I've invested way more than $300 to $500 in this stuff since I began about 10 years ago. But you just slowly kind of add on and build to it. And this is one of the main ways people can get into welding. You don't really necessarily even go get a job, which is one of the other options, and maybe the other one to start going to school and start dipping your toes in there. But we're going to talk about those in here in just a minute. But just know that it is very feasible to start welding even if you have a small space like just half of a garage. And the type of stuff you can make in here, you can do small projects. You can make metal art. You can do repairs for some of your neighbors. I know I've done plenty of repairs for people in this neighborhood. And the neighborhood, I'm the neighborhood welder. They know me, so they know that if they need something fixed that is metal related, then they can give me a call and I can come help them out. In a small shop like this, for the most things that they need repaired, you can handle that in a small shop like this. And you can build small projects too. I don't know if you could see it. You might have been able to see it earlier. I'm going to put a little bit of a video time lapse of where I was trying to clean up this area before I started recording, but I have some trailer ramps, and I've talked about those also on some of my other videos. The trailer ramps I build in here, and I build those again with a 120 volt machine. I think down here, I haven't made a video about it yet, but I have the titanium flux core welder from Harbor Freight that was somewhere around $150 to pick up and get started. And that's with the welder, the wire for the filler wire to weld with, and especially at Harbor Freight, I have to tell you, don't buy anything full price, because there's really no need to. There's so many opportunities for sales that they have there. Just wait. If it's not on sale right now, give it a month, maybe two, and you'd be surprised how much money you can save. Just wait until they put it on sale, because it feels like they almost have a sale every other week, and it goes up to full price for another week, and then it goes back on sale. And Harbor Freight is pretty good about having plenty of sales in that regard. The way you may start learning how to weld when you're a hobbyist at home, if you don't want to go to school or get a job and have someone teach you, there is what a lot of people call YouTube University, as I might jokingly call it, in that you can just watch a ton of YouTube videos. There's a lot of information on YouTube teaching you the basics for welding, sometimes even teaching you some intermediate and advanced level information. But YouTube, as far as YouTube University, the information on there is good. And I think you can actually become a pretty good welder just watching YouTube and trying to emulate and perform exactly what you see on there in your own home shop. But I will say it's good. But if you really, I don't think it's great. I think there are better options, getting more hands-on training even at a job, if you wanted to go start working in the welding industry, you would more than likely learn better and more information from somebody who has experience in the industry. When if you were to get a job, hopefully you could find a good mentor. There's no opportunities for a mentor when you're just learning at home on your own. So that's the one big drawback about learning at home and trying to do it on your own, is you don't really have any feedback from anybody who has more experience in that regard. It just might be a slower process to kind of learn and get better and improve. Whereas if you were to get a job, go work in the industry, get a job in a shop, something like that, you may be able to learn a little quicker since you're there, and you hopefully have some decent mentors who are willing to train you. And that kind of leads to the second way of getting into the welding industry, and that is to learn on the job. You want to go get a job in the shop, in a shop, a nearby fabrication shop. There's several different types of shops. That's the one nice thing too. If something interests you, you can kind of go in that direction, whether that be a structural fabrication shop, maybe a shop that fabricates more architectural or ornamental fabrications, building fences and handrails. There's also, pipe shops too. It gets to be more advanced. Structural and pipe are kind of more advanced when you have to weld in accordance with a specific code that has some pretty decent criteria you have to weld in accordance to. So those might be a little bit more advanced, but I know sometimes, you can get a foot in the door and they'll hand you a grinder and you can go to town cleaning up welds and grinding down sharp corners and burrs off of holes on any of that stuff. It's a foot in the door. And the nice thing about that, the price of admission, the investment it's probably even less than just becoming a hobbyist welder at home, because they provide the machines. You get experience using these bigger machines most of the time. You may have to invest in your own tools and your own personal protective equipment. So like your own grinder, maybe your own gloves, safety glasses. Sometimes the companies or the shops you maybe go to work for will provide some of that stuff. And sometimes they don't. But for the most part, they should be providing the actual welding machines themselves. Usually they will provide the grinders and anything you'll need to get the job done. For the most part, they aren't going to make you bring your own required tools. Now, if you want to invest in your own tools that you like that may be better, you can take those in and maybe be more efficient with those. But that is a nice thing. Not only do they provide the equipment, but if you're working there and you do get a job there and you can get your foot in the door, it's a paid education, essentially, because if you're working at a shop, hopefully you are getting paid, and you're getting paid to learn. There are other welders and fitters there that could train you and mentor you, so that's a good opportunity for that too. So learning on the job, it's got some big benefits too, opposed from just maybe learning at home. There's nothing wrong with learning at home if you want to do that at your own pace and you just maybe doing it for fun or a hobby or some small projects. There's that option. But if you want to get more into it, learning on the job in a shop scenario setting is a very good way to learn. You'd probably learn a little bit faster and you'd make some money while doing it. And yeah, if you can ever find, there's a road to improvement. You can go start off as a grinder, as a helper for the guys in the shop, and then you can work your way up to being a welder. And the sky's the limit there, maybe, hopefully, if as long as it's a good company that encourages, training and promoting you through the ranks. You work your way up to a supervisor or a foreman, whatever the position may be at those shops. But working in a shop, walking in, saying, hey, have your go on in there and say, hey, I'm willing to learn. I'll show up early. I'll stay late. And whatever it is, if you really, really want to learn how to weld, working at a shop is a very good opportunity for that. But That'll lead me then next into the third way that people get into welding, and is actually the way I got into welding, and that was uh, I went straight into school before I even got a job as a welder. And I did that because uh, that's kind of one of the ways I want to learn things. I like to immerse myself in theory, in knowledge about what I want to get, about what I'm about to get into. I went straight from pretty much, I went straight from being a stay-at-home dad, and I went and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. Kids are about the age to start getting into school, so I need to figure something out. And welding is what piqued my interest. And we heard that the local community college, which is the one I work for now, had a really good welding department, and it did, and it does. And I went that route so I wanted to give myself an advantage uh, for when I was ready to get into the welding industry as a job. Um, and the pros and cons of this, the advantages and disadvantages, probably the biggest possible disadvantage, at least at that time, which is a little bit different now, but the investment to become a student at a community college. Now, it's not a big investment, but I believe when I went, it was a few $1,000s to go through the entire program. And that was to go through a 2-year degree program. So each semester was probably maybe $1,000 to $2,000, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I went through. I probably should get the numbers so I can have a more accurate idea to go to each semester. But the nice thing is, after you have invested that money, if you're able to invest there, the equipment is all provided as far as welding machines. The mentorship and the education is what they're giving you. You will tend to provide your own PPE. Um, a lot of times they'll still provide even your tools too. They usually have a tool room where they can provide that kind of stuff as far as grinders, hammers, chisels, things like that that you might need. But PPE is something you will probably need to provide, and it's like gloves and safety glasses, your own hood, um, things like that. And one of the other things too is about the price as far as investing in yourself to go and get this education before you start working as a welder. Um, at the moment, I know that there's a big free tuition movement kind of going on, at least I know in this area, and that a lot of the high school students um, in this city, uh, in this district, actually are getting free tuition at the Austin Community College. So I don't know a better deal than that. If you can go get a really good education in a really good industry for free, there's really no better price than that. I don't. It's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. But if you do have to pay and invest in that education, I think it's a worthwhile investment, and I'm kind of living proof of that. I don't regret a single penny that I spent uh, investing in the education as a welder to this day. So when you get there, like I said, you get a lot of the tools. You got the welding uh, provided to you after you've invested in there, and you also get the hands-on experience that you wouldn't necessarily get from being a hobbyist uh, or just somebody working in the garage. You have somebody there all the time telling you exactly what you need to do, face-to-face interactions, potential mentorship opportunities by these instructors that are going to be with you. You're their main focus. They're just trying to get you to learn, and you're the priority there. You're not working on the job trying to get something done. Maybe or maybe not. This other guy's going to help train you or mentor you, but at least as far as going into a school setting, I mean, that's their job. That's my job when I'm teaching my students now as an instructor. My primary goal is that you are able to succeed in whatever it is the projects we're giving you. And if you don't succeed, then it's on part of it is on me, and that I need to figure out a way to make sure you understand so we can accomplish our goals in here. So that's one thing you will get in maybe a school or college setting, uh, as an instructor setting for going to school to start out your welding career. You'll also learn, at least in our curriculum, we have we do have additional classes like metallurgy. We learn about metallurgy of the welding materials, the welding metals, the base materials, all of this stuff, how they react to each other, why they react the way they do, when it's welding, what is the trying to think of the word here now, the grain structure of the steel and the metals whenever it's getting welded, and then whenever it cools off. You learn a lot of that in the metallurgy class we have. I specifically teach a blueprint reading class now, and I love teaching about blueprints. I don't. It's probably a little weird that I'm that enthusiastic about blueprints, but that is a class I've taught several times now, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I get enthusiastic about it, even though it could be kind of considered a bit of a boring class. But I get excited to do it every day, and that's honestly one of my favorite classes to teach. But we'll teach you how to read blueprints, and by the time you get done with the class, you go out of the class, you get done with that class for the semester. The goal is, somebody hands you a stack of drawings or a stack of blueprints. You're going to be able to navigate your way and find your way through that. Whereas if you were straight up onto working in a shop and they handed you some drawings, hopefully somebody would give you an idea on how to read them. But again, some of these shops may not feel obligated to do that, and they don't want to maybe waste their time training you, which I wouldn't consider a waste, but a lot of shops might see it that way. They'd rather have somebody that knows all of this and is good to go and start welding on the floor day one without having to be trained up. But in a school setting, that's what we do. We train you up. We get you prepared so that when you do leave this school setting, you're ready to hit the ground running, and that looks good for employers of these shops that you might go into after getting an education at a welding trade school or a college of some sort. So that is another big bonus of, I know I'm kind of tooting my own horn here for the school thing, but I guess it's just because that was my experience when I went through it, and that's why I'm such a big promoter of it, and that I'm very happy with the way things turned out when I went to college and then went into the industry. We learn about welding symbols. We learn about the code criteria, American Welding Society, structural welding code. We have the API 1104 criteria for pipe welding, things like that. We learn, why our welds would pass or fail inspection. Rather than maybe going and working in the industry, you put up a good weld and inspector comes by and still fails it, and you have no idea why. It looks great. But there may be some criteria you may not be meeting. Maybe you have too much undercut. Maybe your weld is just too small. Might look like the most beautiful weld in the world, but if it's not the adequate size, you're going to need to put a little bit more meat on that weld. But, you might get upset that, well, it was a beautiful weld. Why did it fail? We learn, at least when you go to school, you should learn that type of, get that type of knowledge so that you understand, why these things happen when you are out there working. So you can maybe avoid them before you even get out there and make those mistakes. You can avoid the mistakes before you even make them. And so also, as I mentioned, you can have your suburban garage shop like I do, even as a hobbyist. But as even whenever I still have mine, even though I went up and went through the program and decided I wanted to get some practice here at home. So little by little, I pieced together some welders, some small welders, some equipment, and I was able to practice at home. And it still is all I use here at the house. Like I said, I don't have property. I don't have a big piece of property. I don't have a 3-car garage in the backyard or even a shed with 220 volt 3-phase power. All I got here is my one half of my 2-car garage, and then but it's enough for what I want to do here. If I want to use something bigger and stronger, maybe someday I'll invest in a small shop location. But at the moment, this meets my needs here. I think it would meet a lot of people's needs out there for what they wanted to build. You'd be surprised how efficient a lot of these machines are getting to be now. But I did that even through school. So if you have any potential thoughts about kind of going any of these 3 routes, I just wanted to give a little bit of a summary on each one, give you a little bit of information on each one. I don't think it's any guess on what probably my preferred route is. I really am happy with the way the route in the road that I took, and but I just wanted to say that all of them are viable, and they all have good pros and cons. Again, pros and cons for being a hobbyist: fairly low investment to get into, but you may not learn as quickly. As far as the learning on the job, you get paid to learn, but you may not learn as much as you want, and depending on the training and the mentorship you get. But it's a very low bar of investment, and you make money while you're learning how to. And the opportunities are still good there, especially if you find a good mentor. And school, going to a trade school or going to college, it's a bit of an investment, but I think what you're paying for, what you're investing is in yourself, getting that good training, getting that good instruction, getting that knowledge, and the mentorship opportunities. I think it's well worth the investment if you can make it. All that to say, I just wanted to pass that information along to you, buddy. So yeah, if you have any thoughts on these 3 different routes, let me know, and maybe we can have some more discussion on that in the future. But either way, that was it. So thanks for watching, and you're going to get there. Mic check, mic check. I have way more stuff than space. All right, I also have post-workout hair, so we'll put a hat on for this one. I need a haircut. And when I get a haircut, I usually cut my own hair, and I usually cut all of them, and I cut them pretty dang short. Maybe next time I'll just fix my hair a little better, or I just won't have very much, and it'll kind of fix itself.